Okay, there you go.
Hey, Lisa Crilley Mallis here with Impactive Strategies, and I'm with the fabulous Laura Licursi. And we just wanted to pop in a little bit and share some strategies from working from home. So, a little bit about me, like why should you even listen to me as I'm telling you strategies? Because right now, no matter where you pop in on the internet, everyone's telling you here's how you should work effectively from home. So here's the deal. My mission in life is to help teams and leaders figure out how to work through the day-to-day stuff as efficiently and effectively as possible so that they have the time and energy to tackle the big picture strategic things. So what that means is I've spent my career helping people just like you figure out how to be more productive in the workplace. So with that being said, here's Laura, who has a ton of expertise also.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, and Lisa has helped me immensely with all of her tips. She is amazing. So basically, I am Laura Licursi. I have been in the virtual assistant space and working remotely for 23 years. So yes, that is before Google was even ever a thing. And I own a virtual assistant agency. Basically, we are a virtual staffing agency. We help busy professionals and attorneys and small business owners go from being busy to productive so that they can delegate those tasks that are keeping them, stuck in the weeds in their business. I also help women in the virtual assistant space. I help them build their businesses. I have resources for them, depending on where you are in your journey. We have all kinds of free stuff. So to say that, I know a little bit about working from home is probably an understatement, but to be honest with you, even right now with these circumstances, I'm struggling too. So that's why Lisa and I put our heads together, because we thought, you know what, if this is what we do for a living and we're having to readjust, I'm sure there's lots of others that are too. So what we're going to talk about again is basically how to work effectively and efficiently from home. So everybody in some form has been touched by this COVID-19 pandemic. So this is really geared towards those of you who maybe have never worked remotely before, or you tried it and you just didn't think that you could do it. We're going to give you some tips on how to structure your day and be productive while you are working from home. And some of you have already mastered it, but now you have a lot thrown in there, right? You could have kids at home, a husband at home, family members at home, and it's really trying to figure out that schedule and see how you guys can all, work together. And then also, these are going to be tips that leaders and managers of teams can share this, with their employees or team members to give them, some guidance and support during this time.
Our goal for all of you today is to figure out how do you master the day-to-day. This is the new normal, and this will be the new normal for a little while. And once you're able to figure out how to master this, then these skills, good news is they'll apply even when we go back to the next new normal, whatever that may be. So what you do today impacts your business 90 days from now. And as soon as you can start to be more proactive versus reactive, and I'm right there with Laura, I spent way too much time on Facebook yesterday, which is one of the reasons we're like, hey, we should do this on Facebook because everyone's hanging out there. But it's all right. We're in it. We're in it for a little while now. Let's figure out how to be the most proactive we can while we're there. So the first tip that I want to share with you is my favorite, biological prime time. Really quick, in general, the idea is that you have highs and lows throughout the day. And you may not be able to say right now, oh, my highest time in the day with my energy and focus is 2 o'clock or whatever it may be. But you know that there are parts of the day that you are more productive than others. So as you're creating your schedule, and it is my firm belief that everyone needs some structure. I have never worked with a client who didn't need some sort of structure. It's just we all need different amounts of structure. The piece that you want to make sure that you structure for your biological prime time is probably about 3 hours in the day where you can work on the toughest, most, where you need to concentrate the most, the really big stuff in your business and life. Give yourself that 3-hour block and match it up with that peak in your energy and in your attention. So as you're setting out the structure for your day, match your high focus activities with a time of day that you're best able to focus, about a 3-hour block, and eliminate all distractions. That is your golden time.
That is the best piece of advice, honestly. That, Lisa, well, I'm sorry, not the best, but one of the best. Yeah, it's important, though. It really is important to know that. And then another thing that I do, actually, I structure my day. I plan it out in half-hour increments. And what I do is I will plan out, I might have to tackle a project in one of those increments. I might set aside increments to have, tackle my to-do list. And in between there, I schedule buffer time. So for me, I usually do 15 minutes. Now that everybody's home with me, it might be more like 20 or 30 minutes. So it might be a little longer, but that gives me an opportunity to really hyper focus for a certain period of time. And then I know I have a break. So I'm not interrupting myself during that time block. And, that could be buffer time you could use, for multiple things, whether it's, engaging with your family who's now home, or, doing some housework, whatever it is, but, allowing yourself that time to like a reward, if you will.
Right. Because when you're thinking about setting up your day, one of the things to remember is in a typical 8-hour day where you're rewarded a lot for butts and seats, when you're thinking about that, the amount of time that you're really, really, really effective and efficient is probably about 3 hours. And then there's a lot of other stuff happening. So one of the advantages, and next week when we do our live again for you all, we will talk more about the advantages. But one of the advantages right now is you have a little more control over your schedule than you may have had in the past when you weren't working remotely. So really hone in on your buffer time and on your biological prime time peaks, and use those spots as effectively as you can. Speaking of buffer time, and using some of that to chat with some family members who may be home, because we are not living in fantasy land here. We know that there are distractions. There are people. Both Laura and I, when we were prepping for this call yesterday, were interrupted by our spouses. So we get that there are people there. And so you do want to create some boundaries around your schedule so that you can focus and really, and Laura's going to give you a couple tips of what that could look like. But here's the bigger piece why. According to Gloria Mark, she did a study, University of California, Irvine. And when you are in the zone and you are working and you get interrupted by someone asking if you've thawed dinner or or an email or a text or whatever, it takes you 23 minutes and 15 seconds to regain your focus. So when you're setting out that time for uninterrupted attention on high importance tasks, you want to remember the fact that every time you allow yourself to be pulled away from that, because you haven't set the structure up well enough or set the boundaries up well enough, is it'll take you 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back to the place that you were. And that time can bleed so easily and so quickly when you are working remotely, because you don't have the social peer pressure potentially around you to keep you focused on what you're doing. And you can jump up and go do this or go do that. And so don't let your day bleed away. Make sure that you set some boundaries up around you. And so speaking of how to do some of that, Laura, any suggestions?
Yeah, well, so for people who actually have their kids at home, and again, everybody is going to be in a different situation, and it depends on the age of the kids, but this is a really good time to get them a little more involved. They can, depending again on their age, there's a lot of things that they could do. They could help in the kitchen. I know a big one for me is still structuring your day like you were in an office, especially if this is brand new to you and you were remote. Make your lunch ahead of time so you're not losing that time, in the kitchen, just like staring in the refrigerator for an hour, because it's easy to do. It's like getting sucked into Facebook or something. So, have your kids help, prep lunch, do laundry, have just other things that they could be doing to keep them occupied. Because in all honesty, when you look at, and I don't know about you, but when I'm looking at the schoolwork that actually needs to be done, it doesn't take 8 hours. I mean, and if you think about it, I'm sure that the work that you're doing that you brought home, if this is new to you, you can do it in a lot less time, because there is a lot of just wasted time in the office. So just, trying to incorporate the whole family to work together as a team, and giving everybody kind of their own, little instructions and little tasks that they can do.
Yes, I agree. There's a thing called Parkinson's Law, which I'll paraphrase for all of you. Feel free to Google it later. But my version of Parkinson's Law is that you'll fill whatever allotted time you have, you'll fill it. So if you think the amount of work you have takes 8 hours, you'll take 8 hours to do it. If you think, okay, I can get it done in 3, you'll get it done in 3. It's the same thing with space. When we buy a new house, we're always like, oh my gosh, there's so much storage space. And then 5 months later, you're like, I can't believe I bought a house with no storage. Because nature abhors a vacuum, and we'll fill what is available.
Yep. I mean, and that's one of the things that we always talk about, is how you really can be so much more efficient and actually cut your workday down when you are forced to hyper focus. So kind of leading into that, another really important piece is find a designated place in your house that you can work in. And granted, not everybody has an extra room or an office, especially if you haven't already set yourself up for it. But you need to find a spot that's not going to be in the center of all of the activity, right? You don't want to be at the kitchen counter and then expecting everybody in the house to be quiet for you, because that's just not going to work. Especially if you're going to have video calls or something like that. Like, you've got to have that quiet spot. I mean, honestly, I know people who have taken, they might have like a decent sized closet, and you can literally set a little, it's not that you have to lock yourself in there for 8 hours, but a place that you can go so you can hyper focus, or you can get away if you need to take a call or do a video conference of some sort.
It's so funny that you said a closet. I met a woman, her name is Jenny Blake. She's the author of Pivot. And I met her last week, and she actually uses her closet downstairs as her supplemental office when she's doing podcasts and things like that. And she said that's the place she can go, and she knows she's 1000% uninterrupted.
Yep. I know, it's funny. It sounds funny, but I'm telling you, you do what you have to do, and you do whatever works for you.
Exactly. So let's pretend for a moment, fast forward a couple days, and you've gotten to the place where you've figured out how to manage the people that are around you, and you can now focus on some of the other distractions that happen all the time. And one of the biggest one of those is email. And when Laura and I talk about how the skills you learn now, you'll be able to use in the future, when you master the email deal, like, you are set up for life. Remember, 23 minutes, 15 seconds every time you're distracted is how long it takes you to get back to where you started. How many times do you see the little icon float across the bottom of your screen saying you have email? Well, I'm promising you, you have email. You have email while you're watching this. There's email all the time. And so here's a couple strategies we're going to go a little deep here. We're trying to hit in some of this stuff higher level, just to give you some ideas of places to start if this is your first time working from home, or if you're in a place where you all of a sudden have people around you. We want to go a little deeper in the email piece for you, because this will apply to everyone. 1, think of the acronym AWE, A-W-E, awareness, work, and evaluation. And when you can figure out what is the email challenge, you then can do, that's your awareness. You then can use the W piece, the work piece, on what's the structure that you can set up around it, so that you can get to the E piece, which is evaluate. Because often we will create a solution and not realize the unintended consequences of our solution. And so that's why you always want to use the E part of awe to evaluate the solution put into place. So some people will say, don't check email in the morning. Other people will say, only check email once a day. What I want to tell you is we're all different. We all need different levels of structure. The way that you decide your email checking policy, and I need a fancier name for that. So if you're watching and you have a fancier name, let me know what it is. But the way that you check your email or you set your email checking policy is to think about what's an emergency in your business and how would they contact you for that emergency. Many of my clients, or when I come in and work in corporations, people will say to me, I have to be in my email every 20 minutes. And I say, well, why? Well, what if XYZ emergency happened? Guess what? If XYZ emergency happened, they're probably calling you on the phone. Not many emergencies are handled via email. So you want to think through, what would people be contacting you via email for? And how long would you want to respond? You teach people how to treat you. This may be an excellent time to retrain those people who are used to getting a 2-second response time from you. So think first, use your awareness. What truly, when do I need to be in my email? How, like, can I go an hour between checking it? Can I go 5 minutes? Can I go half a day? What is it? That's when you set up those dedicated times in your calendar and when you check email. Now, willpower is immortal. And I can tell you right now, most of our willpower is really small. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of unease. There's a lot of uncertainty. And so our willpower muscles right now are not super strong. You want to do what you can to eliminate the need to use a lot of willpower. So what I mean by that is, as you're setting up your structure, the W part of awe, the work part, think about how can you make it easy not to look at your email except for the times you've set it. Turn off the notifications. If you're in your inbox, you can turn it off to work offline or do not disturb or airplane mode. I always joke and say, you know, your phone, turn it over. And people will say, is that an app? No, literally turn your phone over so that you can't see the fact that you have email. Set up the environment in a way that, in the structure in a way that you are not tempted to go in there. Then at the end of the day, at the end of the week, come back to the E phase of evaluate and see what happened. Do you need to check it more often? Can you stretch it further to check it? Because when you batch your tasks and do all your email at once, it takes so much less time than checking it all day long. Anything you want to add on email?
Not on email, but I do it. I mean, you gave me that tip a long time ago. And so what I had got in the habit of doing is checking my email 3 times a day. So I check it in the morning, noon, and 4. Lately, obviously, with everything going on, I need to rein myself back in and get back to that schedule. But that was so helpful for me. Same with my phone. I turn my if I'm trying to get something done, I do the same thing with my phone. Do not disturb.
Awesome.
That's it. So the other thing too that we just wanted to kind of throw out there is, you know, engaging again your kids and your spouses. And because when you are trying to get this work done and you're trying to hyper focus on these tasks, some of you might need to come up with other ways to keep people engaged. And like what my daughter right now, senior year of student teaching, right? And of course, there's no place for her to student teach. So she put it out there on Facebook that she's open to help, you know, tutor, babysit, whatever it is. And that's what she's actually doing right now. So if you find yourself needing some time, excuse me, find yourself needing some time, even if it's a couple hours in either the morning or the afternoon, so that you can really focus on something, see if you have a student or a high school student or a college student around you that you could pull in to maybe help your kids with their, with their schoolwork. Maybe it's just to take them outside, get out in the fresh air. Obviously no place that is crowded, but just to have somebody to keep them occupied. And honestly, sometimes that even goes for our animals. I mean, I know like our animals, sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, I just want to be next to you, on top of you, and barking while you're on the phone. So, just trying to find whatever your new normal is, and creating that schedule around it. And then having cues that your kids, your spouse, other family members will understand. And I've had to do this forever. So you could have, like, if you are going to be on a call and you don't want to be interrupted, put a green or a red sign out. Red means stop, do not enter, don't bother me, do not, I'm sorry, but unless you're on fire, that, something's burning to the ground, do not bother me right now. And green means go. Hey, this is open time. I'm going to try to get some stuff done. If you need me, come on in. So whatever that's going to look like to you, but having those cues that are really clear to people, so that you're not on a conference call with your boss and the kids and the dogs just come, bursting in on you. And again, depending on the age of them, but that's always been really helpful for me. I always would have a do not disturb sign on if I was in the middle of a meeting, or if I was really hyper focusing on something and needed to get it done.
Absolutely. It's so my brain's going 50 other directions of things that I want to share with all of you right now. And I also know from an educational perspective, 20 minutes is pretty much the max when you're on video that is easy to take the information, digest it, and move it into implementation. So Laura and I shared with you a number of tips today. And what will happen is you'll hear, oh, I already know that, and you'll dismiss it. Or you'll try to take every single thing we said today and move it into implementation immediately. So here's some friendly advice. One, if you're like, oh, I've already heard that, I totally know that, ask yourself, am I doing it right now? Because you may have heard it 1,000,007 times, but you may not actually be using it. So that's one piece of advice for you. The second piece of advice for you right now is pick just one strategy that we gave you. If you're a manager and you're thinking your workforce has never worked remotely, maybe just talking to them about biological prime time and helping them there would be the perfect piece to help them get settled in, or a dedicated workspace. Like, think through for your own productivity, and for those of you who are responsible for a number of employees, think through what can you share with them also. We're in this place now. This is it. This is our new normal. And being able to work proactively and effectively and efficiently in this spot just sets you up for success moving forward. So here's what Laura and I are committing to you right now. We will be on every week until this new normal becomes an old normal and we get a new normal. And so we'll be here every week. We will be here Wednesday, the 25th at 12 o'clock noon Eastern time. Join us. Between now and then, we have a request for you. Let us know what your specific situation is that we can dig into. We want to answer your specific questions. Today was a lot of high level stuff. We want to help you with the specific needs, especially as you start to get better at this skill and your needs change. Post in a comment below if you're watching this video after the live and after the replay on social media and you're getting it in an email. Hit reply to the email, give us some ideas, and we will dig into them. For sure, next week, we are going to talk about how to embrace this new normal, because there are some great things about the fact that we are mostly working remotely. Like, there's some really cool things that you can take advantage of that you wouldn't have had the opportunity to do a couple of weeks ago. So we are definitely going to hit that next week, but we want to know what else you want to know. So we thank you for watching and listening and commenting and sharing ideas, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. Bye for now.